Good evening, good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Give me a 5B5 if you can see and hear me. Here's my new stand here. Can you see it? Look at that petition. Might have to pull that out of the way a touch. Let me have a quick look. Can you see and hear me? Give me a shout. Don't forget, sharing is caring. Second thing is to subscribe. And the third and most important is to hit the like button. In fact, they're all important, so ignore what I just said. Do all three of them. Jules, hi, Taffy Pat. Let's have a look. I feel a little bit tired tonight, to be honest with you, only because I didn't get a lot of sleep last night when I was checking on various things. Let me pull this down because it's getting creased up. Let's have a look. 5B5 has come in there. I'll wait for a few people to pile in before I get stuck into the show. But if you're on YouTube, come over to Rumble and join us. Click on subscribe. They're the only people who never took us down, and we can have a proper conversation on here without channel getting taken down and all that. We're nearly on 10,000 subscribers on Rumble. If you look at most of the smaller people, and what I mean by that is, they've got massive, great big channels on YouTube, and they've got a few hundred on Rumble. Rumble it hasn't got any algorithms promoting whatever it wants to promote. So the more we keep going up through the ranks on that, the better. And it will eventually be the number one platform because everyone will be getting rid of YouTube. And again, I've done some other strange things with our YouTube channel. Got a strike for putting out, having a clip in it of GB News with Sammy, who was referencing the fact that they told her not to mention ethnicity and the religion of the perpetrators in the rape and torture gang inquiry report. And obviously she did. So I played that and they give it a strike. That's a form of censorship. So they're stopping people even seeing it on other platforms. So if you don't watch that platform and you never saw that, when you start promoting it on YouTube, they're going to shut your channel down. Unless, of course, they're just targeting me. So again, sharing is caring. Hit the subscribe button and hit the like button. Ping it. I haven't gone and had a look and see how many people are on there at the moment. Let me check it and see how many likes I've got on there at the moment. At 41. Let's see if I can get over 100 before we shut down the actual show. Now, there's a few things I want to talk about. First thing I'm going to say to everyone, right, is Rebecca Shepherd and the members, activists and supporters of Restore Britain did exceptionally well to get their deposit back, all right? Because the system doesn't allow it. Trust me. The fraud is always in, but I am going to talk about the fraud. And I think it's important that people understand that they did do exceptionally well. I'm not... there's some things I'm going to talk about tonight that I have to be careful with. And the reason I have to be careful, what I mean by being careful with it, is I don't want to demoralise people into not voting. But at the same time, you have to discuss the fraud. And then what you'll get is some people turn around and say, well, there's no point in voting then, is it? They're just going to... it's... The election process, especially in Redwall, and they can swap out count teams and put their own count teams in virtually anywhere in the country. But it's far simpler for them because of common purpose, the training of the count teams in the red wall, in particularly in the north, and in the cities. Same training, same group of people. Remember what Common Purpose are about. They're Chatham House rules. They've got a number of different people at different levels in it, at senior level, and they're basically told to operate unlawfully or outside of their authority, which means unlawfully, right? And when you've got senior police officers that are, when I say senior, I mean chief constables as well, that are involved with that and had common purpose training, and very senior other types of police officers, you start to see how corrupt it is. So I just want people to understand. Without demoralising, Restore Britain, because I do believe they can have a massive impact. But they are either either the people involved at a higher level with the campaign were, and you're going to have to excuse the way I put this, just standard normal political party people. Do you understand what I'm saying by that? In other words, they ain't really got any real experience of life. They've never had skin in the game to run it themselves. In other words, like people like us, where we've stood in and we understand the election process, even the election petition side of it. Quite big mistakes were made. But that doesn't take away from Rebecca Shepherd's great result. I think it should have been a lot more than that, and it possibly was, right? I do want to show people something, which I did send out earlier to a few people, and I just want you to listen. All I'm telling you is there's something very strange about this, right? So Andy the Gabby Cabby sent it out earlier as well. Makerfield by-election results. 3 candidates get exactly the same number of votes, right? And it's on your screen. The odds of this happening can be in the region of 10,000 to 1. Rupert Lowe, this is what election petition inquiries are for, right? And why you should be. We warned them about this vote, right? And especially about the count. And I've got to make sure everyone understands what I'm saying here. The count is the equivalent to a magician's illusion, right? And a magician will use, because it is a form of deception, right? The magician will use distractions. The count is no different to the stage, right? You've got people dressed like bins coming in, distracting people. You've got people dressed as foxes coming in, and everyone's looking and they're doing funny things in the background, a bit like letting the clowns play at a circus, and then everyone's looking at it while the magician's doing these tricks, right? And the magician technically is the returning officer, who, by the way, is a crown servant, acts in that evening as a crown servant. In other words, as a representative of the king, right? And they're personally responsible for everything that goes on during an election. It's really important that people understand that. But what you're seeing is the distraction of a count. The count itself, you're not allowed to have cameras on the people counting. The people in the middle who are doing the bundles have got carte blanche to do it, because you can't keep an eye on them people. You can't see what they're doing. And they're the ones who are trained to pack votes. So if you have a bundle, whatever it is, let's say 3,000, for example, of Conservative votes, then Conservative votes could be put in with either Andy Burnham, and what they would do is put a Labour one at the top and a Labour one at the bottom, and then they have to pile in between, right? And they don't. No one. No, what everyone is missing with this is people believe that for you to call an election petition or a steward's inquiry, it has to be within a certain range, right? In fact, you can call an election petition for any reason if you suspect fraud, and you can start to prove fraud, right? That's why the count agents are so important. But when you get three people that's on the screen here, so Climate Party, Independent, Libertarian Party, and each one got exactly 18 votes. So is there 18 votes, the new 50 votes? And what I said to people is, maybe we should stand in that election just to see if we get 50 votes again. Because every time we vote and get 50 votes, right, they're basically challenging you. So what? We can do what we like, right? This is a selection where the system is putting in place who they want. It isn't showing the will of the people. The count itself is crooked. And the people running the crowd at this level and understanding that fraud, they're professional criminals. And what I'm saying to people is, all of the time that's not being challenged, you are going to get these results. You're never, ever going to get anywhere because they will never allow you to get anywhere, right? You're not actually reflecting public opinion. They've just allowed Reform to look like they've put out a good show. I genuinely believe there were probably more votes for Rebecca than that's what's been shown, and because of the amount of votes coming in, it's a bit difficult for them to be able to make her lose her deposit, which is ultimately what they aim to do. But then you've got the monster raving Luna Party in there, a dog or a fox dressed up, a candidate dressed up as a fox, and then they're showing you on the screen. I entitled this show, and here you're being presented with your dog king. Because in medieval times, when someone had been conquered, or a realm and a king had been conquered, the conquerors would get a dog, they'd put it on the throne, they put a crown on it, put a robe around it, and the dog would bark or growl or do whatever, and someone would translate what the dog was saying to the people. Your king has said this, right? Proper taking the mick out of you, right? It's a humiliation ritual of the conquerors, and that's what they're doing. That's exactly what these people are doing. This is a medieval humiliation ritual to show you that the country has become so corrupt at every level of the institutions, including the police, the judiciary, the voting systems, the crown itself, the crown servants, all of them are so corrupt, you are never going to get anywhere. So part of me is telling you, and there's a point to what I'm saying here, right? You've got to get out and vote. If you don't vote, to overwhelm them is massive, right? But I am telling you something now. In history, the only time we have ever achieved anything against the ruling classes are when we get up and physically rebel. Peasants' Revolt, Glorious Revolution, where we and again, that is key to this, the Glorious Revolution. Because the people in my eyes that are doing this are a European Union superstate that seeks to destroy England. Right? That's their objective. That's why they want to regionalise. And what you're now seeing is a situation where Andy Burnham, the day before or whenever it was, I think it was the day before, he was selected by the ruling classes at Makerfield. He changed the voting system for the mayoral election because it's now vacant, not to proportional representation, but to an alternative vote, right? And why is that so important? Because they've done all this before. The Fabian Society have done all this before. That's how they took control. The Marxists took control of South Africa. That's how they've took control completely of New Zealand. That's how they, in effect, they've taken control all around the world. They're now attacking the United States of America. This fraud has been exported to the United States of America, which brings me on to my next part of this, which is really important that people understand. I am telling you, I don't want violence, right? But what I am saying to people is history proves that the only time we can take our country back from the ruling classes is when we use violence, right? Go back through history and you'll see it again and again and again. The people rebelling and saying, that's it, we've had enough, right? So there's lots of people talking about a civil war. It takes a lot of thinking about, right? And because I'm just for the English and England, right? These people seek to destroy England. That's it. The common law needs to go, right? That's the way they see it. They want Roman law implemented. Whether we like it or not, they want an administrative legal system. And to do that, they're dividing England up into 9 regions. They've already succeeded with London Assembly. They've destroyed Middlesex. They've already succeeded, and you can go back through history and read all the what they put in place to make this happen, right? They've already succeeded with Scotland. They've already succeeded with Northern Ireland, and it's just a matter of time before it's just flooded, and then they'll make Ireland a single region, which is what their intention is to do. Over time, they've done all these things. Why is it so important that America understands this? Because they exported this, and one of the reasons that President Trump fell out with Nigel Farage is because Nigel Farage went to America and told President Trump to drop all these accusations of fraud on the elections. And Trump told him a Foxtrot Oscar, right? But why would Farage tell him to drop all that? Because when they show and prove election fraud at scale in the United States of America, and the exact method that they're using in America, they used here, right? Then it highlights how these people have stayed in power in England and how they took control of the United Kingdom, right? So why would Nigel Farage want to help cover that up? I'll tell you for why, because he's part of it, right? He's always been part of it. UKIP, I think the only thing that was genuinely for us were two elements. One was the I think it was called the Referendum Party, right? That was run by Jimmy Goldsmith, even though he's a Jew and even though he was a Zionist, right? There's different aspects. So if you remove that out of the equation, he was for us and knew what they was doing, right? And then you had the English independence movement at the time, and I'm going back 35 years, 40 years ago, right? It was massive. And they had to diffuse that completely. And that's when they brought in the United Kingdom Independence Party, and that's when they brought in Nigel Farage. It's why, one of the reasons, I should say, that Gerard Batten, who is an English nationalist, didn't get on with Nigel Farage, right? Because Nigel Farage was only about the British, and Gerard Batten was about the common law union. He wanted independence for England. He believed that the only way you're ever going to solve this is English independence. Gerard Batten, right? So you can see all these things in the background, and you must understand what's going on, right? So I don't want to. I'm not here to demoralise anyone with Restore Britain, but I honestly believe that some of the people that they've got involved at the top, and I'm not talking about Rupert Lowe, by the way, in this, I don't think he is naive, but some people at the top of that party are very naive, and they have used the people running that campaign and the way they operated within that campaign, and the person that they helped and brought in to assist in running that campaign. I've got the names here somewhere. Not only wasn't it a good idea, just the fact that them two was involved in any way or form shows how completely naive that the more senior inner circle of Restore Britain is to have allowed it to happen. I mean, when they had done the rape inquiry, and that nasty, horrible woman who was giggling and laughing about all the 250,000 plus rape and torture victims all over, mainly England, they stood their ground and said, we don't want her on a panel. Get rid of her. And they did, and they wouldn't allow her near the panel, right? If I remember rightly, they didn't allow Ben Habib near it either. And then he demanded his money back, right? That he had presented and then took back, etc. So I don't want to demoralise anyone, but I do want people to look at that. 3 candidates got exactly 18 votes, right? It's not impossible, but it does seem strange that every time you go into a high-profile election, they will put in their best count team, their best illusion team. They will all be told, listen, nothing's going to happen to you, but we need to make sure this happens. And what you've seen is the presentment of the ruling classes putting forward who they want in position, which is Andy Burnham. That's what you've just witnessed, right? And let me just make sure, because I'm going to stop that a second. Let me take that off your screen. Let me just make sure everyone's aware of this, right? All I've heard from various different people today is who in their right mind would vote Labour. And I don't disagree. I know that that's a Labour area, and I kept saying to them, stop slagging off the working class. You ain't doing yourself any favours whatsoever, right? I'm not one of their naive, middle-classy types, right? And I think especially young people. And I'm not being disrespectful to the young people. I'm just telling you, you haven't got that level of experience to understand what you're actually doing there, right? Everyone thinking the election system is all fine and dandy when it is not. It is probably the most corrupt system out there. And it's easy to get the right people in place to understand what the fraud is, to train people in what the fraud is, to call it out on the night on numerous occasions to the returning officer, make sure it's recorded, right? So you would record it, so you'd have witnesses. At this time, I said this to the returning officer. The response from the returning officer was this, right? Everything has to be recorded. And then when you present that in an election petition, right? I want everyone, again, people keep missing a trick here. Ashby versus White of 1703 categorically stated that it is an absolute right to vote, right? And where there is a right, there is a remedy. So if they're trying to take the remedy away and someone says, well, hang on a minute, you're taking them votes off of people, how did you get to this? We believe there's a problem. We want an individual, and this is the kicker, people. When they do this type of fraud, they cannot repeat it twice exactly the same. It can't be repeated, right? And that's why they fight back and say, we do not want an individual ballot recount. Think about what happened in Doncaster in 2009 when they stole 5,000 BNP votes, British National Party, right? They're not a bit of me because they're British. They stole 5,000 of their votes and they did the same thing. They had a Labour ticket on the bottom, Labour ballot on the bottom and the top like that, stuck it in the thing, and then the returning officer said, we're having an individual ballot recount. And at that individual ballot recount, they then found that Labour and the count, right, had stolen 5,000 votes from the BNP. But that means 5,000 individuals technically had the right to sue because an individual elector in Makersfield, an individual elector can bring a case, right? They've got to do it quickly. I think it is within 21 days. Right, I'd have to go back through my notes to see what, but an individual elector. It doesn't have to be a candidate. It doesn't have to be the leader of a political party. But let's just say an individual says, I'm not happy with this count for this reason, right? And then they start showing evidence of, let's say, I'm not happy with that count. So I want to know where my vote went to, right? Especially anyone who knows. So Ed Gemmell, Climate Party, 18 votes. Robert Neal Pownall, Independent, right? Now, the next part of this fraud is they've created a... I keep saying this, does everyone understand this? You should already understand if you watch this show long enough, right? Do you all understand that after a year and a day, they burn the ballots, they incinerate the ballots. So after a year and a day, there is no evidence of the fraud being committed. All right? It used to be 2 years that you could bring an election petition. If something come out and you said, hang on a minute, that's not right, within 2 years you could call a steward's inquiry into the election petition at court in London, Royal Courts of Justice, right? Now they've cut it down to 21 days. You have to make the application within 21 days. You have to fill out all the paperwork, put the statement in, get it in there, get all the right things in. It comes to about between 5 and 10 grand, even if you're doing it yourself, right? Again, you're paying for what are you paying for? It's your right And where there's a right, there's a remedy. So an individual elector in Makersfield could say, I'm not happy with that count, I want a recount. I want an individual ballot recount, not a bundle recount. Right? And if that happened every time at the Red Bull, that someone in that constituency said, I'm not having it, right? I want to know where my ballot went. Right? I actually want to see the evidence trail of it. I don't believe that my opinion and my vote went to my candidate. Do you get what I'm saying? So, but no one's putting them under pressure. So the fraud continues. They've made it so difficult for you to claim your right to a free and fair election that you haven't got a free and fair election anymore. They've made it so difficult for you to have a firearm, you've got no right to keep and bear arms anymore. It's all related, and it all goes back to King Billy, to the Prince of Orange, to the Protestant settlement, and that is what this is all about. And the Jesuits, right, or the Holy Roman See and the Holy Roman Empire, right, they regard the British Isles, yeah, Britannia, as a province of Rome. That's what this is all about. And they're destroying England in the process. They're destroying Northern Ireland in the process, which is technically a Protestantly protected nation that is directly associated with England, right? And we've got the same problem in Scotland. What do I mean by that? The Scottish Protestants are protected by the English Bill of Rights. So I've had people in Scotland and Northern Ireland and different places go to me, yeah, but the Union's a good thing. It protected the Protestants. I'm not disputing that. I'm not disputing it. What I am saying is they have used that against us. And there is and the attack now is to completely annihilate England. And the reason why you're seeing all these people being raped all over this country is because of this corrupt to the core voting system, because they have found their way of doing it. Someone said to me last night, someone who works in a betting shop, bearing in mind I used to own and operate a betting shop, right? There's a camera system in a betting shop. You can scan every bet. You can scan every vote, right? You don't have to do anything fancy. You just say, right, tell like the camera, pick up every single vote for X and show me what it is. And you can do this locally at every poll station, and it would have to tally with the physical vote at the count. And if it doesn't, there's a steward's inquiry, right? It's not difficult. This whole fraud can be completely eliminated like that, right? But instead, these people, especially, I can't believe, I mean, I've got to be honest with you. I think Rupert Lowe is proper. I think he's 100%. How some of these other people have got involved at the top, right? I think a lot of the people there, Lucy White, I think is 110%. She gets it, right? I mean, she's actually coming out and saying what she thinks. There's many other people who get it as well, but we've got to stop fannying around. Literally, we have to tell people, one, you need to get out and vote, right? 100%. I mean, he's just, like I said, he's now changed the voting system. So they pushed through because they knew they had all the right people in place at his election to be the Manchester mayor, right? So they had first past the post because they knew they had the right count team to get away with it, right? But now what's coming up are these count teams, because they have to bring them in from different places, like they did with Runcorn and Helsby. They weren't from the local council. They come in from Liverpool, from St Helens, from different places. They said that in the court, right? So these people are not local. They're trained in different areas, and they come forward as a team to carry out the fraud. Like a magician's team would, travel from Manchester to London and create the illusion. Everyone's in the audience going, "Ooh," right? When someone disappears, "Oh," right? It's the same thing. So again, I want to emphasise this. The teams of people that went up there to assist. Restore Britain had a great ground game. I don't know the reasons why Rebecca didn't get on camera or didn't want to be on camera. Some people are pretty shy about being on camera, to be honest with you. I don't know any of that reasoning. And then I'm not having a pet pop at Rebecca. I think she really broke the stick her name up and go straight in. Let me tell you something. It is hard to get candidates, right? Because people know what's going to. I mean, we had 4 in the general election, right? And by the way, Britain First didn't mount any, right? Didn't mount any in that general election. I think I got 1,007 votes. When I've stood before in Bexley Heath, I've got 700, 692 votes, 700 votes, etc. Right? It's much harder for them to carry out the fraud, much more difficult all over the country. Much more difficult. But people need to be aware of it. People need to be trained. The count agents need to know what to do. There needs to be people ready to go bang. You need to have people in your constituency that are willing, right? And by the way, the fees are waived if you're unemployed, right? So if you're unemployed, you go, right, bang, 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 I want to put this in, right? And you all of a sudden, you've started to trigger a problem for them. You've got to keep pushing forward with that. The fraud is so serious because it has, over time now, it has undermined our constitution. It's certainly undermining your constitutional right to freedom of election. All right? There is no doubt in my mind whatsoever that there was fraud at that election, at that count. And just to make sure everyone's aware of this again, right? The postal ballot, right, is a distraction. It is part of the fraud. It is not the fraud. The fraud happens at the count, right? Because they don't know what that turnout's going to be, and they have to count the people doing the count, doing the skullduggery at the count, right? Because they have got no control about how many people push forward. That's why President Trump won the election the first time, because they had no idea how many people was pushing forward. And then as it started to pick up on his second election, they then put a massive fiddle in, right? Changing stuff on the machines, Dominion systems to Dominion systems. Was it Mark something? Eden Brown or Ellen Brown? Someone will correct me in the audience, right? He's a British lord, and he was running Dominion systems. What they did with the Dominion voting machines, electronic machines, was they created the fraud and the algorithm for the fraud and put it electronically, so they could do it at scale in America with millions of people. That's exactly what they did. Any questions on that, by the way? So again, I don't want people to think that I'm having a pop at Restore Britain. I'm not. I'm just saying, can we skip this bullshit? In the same way, everyone now is understanding that these rapes and tortures have gone on all over England. We have been invaded, right? Our children are being raped. Everyone's now getting that. Will you also understand that what enabled that, right, to happen in the first place is the fraud at the count? Let me have a look. Hello. Right, anyone got any questions for me? Let me have a look. Let me have a look. There was something else I wanted to show people. How far are we getting into this? Now I'm going to show you something else on the screen. Hopefully my camera don't pack up. There it is there. Hopefully you can see it. Right, hang on a minute. Let me go back. Oh. Did you hear about the kid as well that got thrown into the alligators? I don't know how he is at the moment, but the person who threw him into with the crocodiles has been released on bail. Evidently, he's not fit for interview, whatever that means. They told us the result a week ago. Only where... No, everyone should know that. Yeah, but I want everyone to understand something. I'll keep hearing. I've just seen a comment now. I'm going to read it, and let me see if I can actually put it out there. See if this goes up on the screen. I'll put it up at the top of the screen. I'll tell you what. Let me stop sharing, and hopefully that comes up on the screen, right? Makerfield has been commie since 1906. I do want people to understand this, right? I know a lot of Northerners. I stay up north a lot, right? I love the north, right? They're very direct like me, right? Some even more brutal, right? But my point is to you, right? These people know what's going on, and I'm telling you now, in the red ball areas, you've got a percentage of people that are voting Labour, but nowhere near the numbers that they're talking about. This is a fraud, right? They have stayed in power via fraud, right? So you can't. I don't want people blaming the Northerners, because I am telling you this is a fraud. The problem is that the people will not accept it's a fraud. They think that the system wouldn't do that to them. It would, right? In the same way as the system has allowed 250,000 girls to be raped all over the country. You need to understand it's not the Northerners' fault. It's a fake red wall, right? It is fake in the same way as the USSR held on to power criminally, right? The same group of people are doing it here. Right? That's all I'm saying to you. I'm not having a pop at Thomas Crowthorne, by the way. I'm just telling you, right? You got stop blaming. Don't blame the Northerners, because I'm telling you that. And by the way, it's happened in London, right? I mean, when I go out and talk to people, I don't know anyone apart from foreigners that are voting for Labour, right? And everyone's saying we can't understand how they're getting in. It's fraud. That's how they're getting in. I'm going to show you this again. Did everyone understand that? Treason, plain and simple. The whole thing is any form. I've got to tell you something now. Any form of subversion of our constitutional rights, and especially the Bill of Rights, and especially Article 8, freedom of election, right? That is treason, because they are subverting the Constitution. It is treason. You should be hung for it. They don't like it when I tell people. Let me have a look. Good evening, ladies and gents. Slightly late, and also OG. Who's the Scouse chick that's doing good work? Let me have a look at that. Let me have a look. 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 Diaz is Rupert. Accent. There will be uproar. Let me have a look. Let's see if anyone's out there. They might have gone off somewhere else. Well, I need to show you this. There's a good supplementary question here. Does that mean that the Boris blue wall phenomenon in 29 was also the result of fraud? What stunned so many people up north voted Tory? Possibly. That it's their own selection process. It's nothing to do with us. It's not the will of the people. So on this screen, you will see, let me bring it up. Tomlinson confirms that Alistair Harrison selected Rebecca Shepherd, blocked her from doing interviews, and hired Scott Benton without consulting anyone in the party. Right? As Pimlico Journal have reported, there is a rift in Restore between Harrison and the Zoomers, and it's growing. Right? This is what I'm saying. Something is off at the top. I don't think it's Rupert Lowe, right? And again, the reason why I said this and I'll support him is because what he sent a personal letter, signed Rupert, and the only reason he got that letter, right? The only reason Rupert received that letter is because Andy did not write to Parliament, where it would be intercepted by Alistair. Because I sent lots of emails to Rupert Lowe and not a single response. Now, I know that Rupert Lowe is a genuinely nice person, right? I've been frustrated with him in the past, but I know he is also a gentleman. And the fact that we offered our political party to him, lock, stock and barrel, right? And it was completely ignored. Now I know why. Because all of that went into, it's a bit like what's happening to me in central Devon, right? You're being blocked by people, by someone else who just doesn't like you. They don't care that you've got experience of running campaigns and really, like, literally taking a constituency from zero to banging it right up there, right? They don't care about that. They're interested in what they believe. But I'm going to run this for you. You tell me what you think.
And I think they've underperformed because Rebecca Shepherd wasn't a very strong candidate. Because she was weak on camera, she wasn't very rhetorically sharp, she didn't actually bother to read any of the policies. A lot of people were voting Restore because of Rupert. And that's just a fact. And so the person that chose Rebecca Shepherd as the candidate shouldn't be making those decisions in future. The person that was, blocking her from doing media interviews because they were so worried about her being weak shouldn't be making those decisions. The decision-making capacity should be dispersed across a few sensible people in the team rather than concentrated in whoever made that decision. And also, it means that hiring Scott Benton to help run the campaign wasn't such a great idea after all. The recycled former Tory dog's body, no matter how lower functionary he wasn't a sensible idea to have on because he didn't do well enough to excuse him being there on purely Machiavellian terms. So I think there's reason to be discouraged.
So, just to make sure, did you all understand what he just said? So, Alistair Harrison is the person who stuck Rebecca in there. He also took on this ex-Tory who was running them campaigns up north, right? Bad idea. And some people, I'm not going to say their names, have sat there and started having a pop at the working class being lazy. And I'm like sitting here as a Londoner, right, that know lots of Northerners that are proper full Comanche grafters, right, often taking the mick out of Southerners when we come up there and go, it's cold, and they're walking around with shorts and T-shirts on, right? And it is funny. They're just acclimatised to a few degrees lower. But my whole point to you is, all right, they're proper grafters. And The reason they ain't got jobs is because of what the ruling classes have done, right? And the Southerners know that. The Northerners know that. The people in Northern Ireland know that. The Scottish know that, right? Well, some Scots know that. And then you got this, stuff in the background. Sometimes you have to be quite ruthless in a political party. Just because you like someone don't mean they're good for the party. And just because you don't like someone, they could be very good for the party, right? And all I'm saying, so with me in particular, I've got this massive passion for Devon, right? And the glorious revolution, and how important Devon is, right? I work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. I never switch off, right? I don't really get any money out of it, right? Do I work a lot or not?
Don't stop.
She just said, don't stop, right? So what I'm trying to say to you, and it ain't about me, it's about England. And when you get them people, the people who took the piss out of us was UKIP and Nigel Farage. Do you remember that? The People's Army. Do you remember that speech he made? I've still got it on my computer somewhere. The People's Army, right? We were led by a traitor. Jimmy Goldsmith was. He was similarly. He had similar integrity levels to Rupert Lowe, in my opinion. Will not. I'm a Southern softie. Yes, Southern softies. Yeah, that's what they used to call me. There was people walking around. It was fucking snowing. They got shorts on, taking their dogs for a walk. Is there something wrong with these people or what? It's not called. Right, let's have a look. Will not. Ray Edmonds, good evening, Kew Gardens. Hello, Ray Edmonds. Don't forget sharing is caring. The more you share, the more you care. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, come across, right? They don't promote our channel. On Rumble, we've got just under 10,000 subscribers. Come across and subscribe, right? Get in there. And there's a few other things I wanted to talk about before I... let's go and have a look at the next one. Did everyone just understand what Mr. Tomlin just said? I like these young fellas, right? And I know it's difficult. It's like listening to your dad, isn't it? And by the way, it's like listening to your dad when you're younger, and he says, "Don't do this, boy. Don't do that, boy. It's just blah 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 blah." Yeah, right, Dad. Go and do it. Fucking end up whatever, right? And he sort of, right. Well, sometimes you do need to listen. We're not saying it for any other reason. Is to give you the benefit of our experience, right? And sometime, I mean, bearing in mind the first immigration march I was ever on was when I was 16 years old. Nothing's changed, people, apart from the rapes have continued. Let me have a look. If you haven't already, check out that. Before I show you the next thing, which is continuation. So I sent my dad, who's 96, right? I sent my dad a Happy Father's Day card. But when I went in to the Anxie shop, he's had a little pop at me in the past because I lost 2 medals of my granddad's when I was little. And it was the 2 medals that you'd been in the war, in the Second World War. There was a star. There was one of them that's a star, and the other one's like a round one with red, white, and blue on it with things. Does anyone remember seeing them? And they was given to everyone who started and finished the war, basically. So I'm in the antique shop, and I can see all these medals. I'm thinking, oh, right. So I've looked at these medals and seen them, and then I see 2 of the identical medals that my granddad had. So when we bought my dad a card, I've sellotaped the medals and the ribbons inside the card and sent them to him, right? So today, or the other day, he got the card and he could feel the weight of the card. And he said, "No, I'm waiting till Sunday, right, and all that." I said, "Well, it's up to you." Like, he's getting old, and I think he gets a bit paranoid about waiting. Just like he always says, never go to bed on a bad word with someone because you might not be waking up. And I cut a long story short, so he's rung me. He went, I opened my card. He was all excited. He opened his cards, right? And he said, "You got them medals?" And I went, "Yeah." He said, "Well, where did you find them?" And I went, well, I went in the antique shop, Dad. Well, I'll send them to you. And he went, "Oh, that was lovely." So he's got these medals, right? But the reason I'm telling you this is because then he went into a whole story about when he was 13 years old. Listen to this, right? Charlie, I tell you, I had him on speaker and he's telling this story, right? And he was all excited and he was reminiscing about when he was 13, right, during the war, and a sergeant major come into the school, right, and said, "Right, we need you boys to join the Army Cadets, and you will join. You will be with and trained with the Home Guard to defend the nation." And he said, "Can I have volunteers?" And he said, "I'll put my hand up," and I volunteered. My mate volunteered, and he said, "We're 13." He said, "We had uniforms." And then he said, "We used to march from, was it Shepherd's Bush or
Shepherd's Bush to the Scrubs, was it?
Shepherd's Bush to the Scrubs." And he said, "But there was a place there." He said, "They give at 13." He said, "They give us rifles." I said, "What, real rifles?" He went, "Yeah, we used to shoot them. We used to go down a range." And he said, "We'd be with them." And he said, "We'd be taking home and getting our range and shooting and everything." 13 years old, right? And he said, "Yeah, we was given our guns, we was given our uniforms." And he said, "We was told, you are the rear guard to the enemy when they come. You know the streets, you know the back streets. These people won't stand a chance if you understand how to use these firearms." They're 13 years old, right? And they've been given rifles. They're marching with pride down the high street and everyone's cheering them on, where the Army Cadets and the older men are marching down the road and they've got their rifles. They get to the other end, they pull out their rifles and they're all popping away on the range, etc., getting their eye in and understand. 13 years old. And what was said by the Sergeant Major is that they won't stand a chance in the back streets of our country against you. Right? What happened? What's happened since then? Could we put a gun in the hands of a 13-year-old now and say, "This is your right to defend this realm and your family and your streets and your home," right? And it was all coming back to him as he was telling me about it. All I'm saying to you is look at these people and what they have done to us since the Second World War, right? And this is Marxists and communists that have done that to us. So there's the story from my dad.
And you could hear the pride in his voice as
Yeah,
well.
you could hear the pride in his voice that he did that. And he's 96 and he's 30 and he remembers the doodle bugs. He remembers everything that went on, right? And again, people just need to understand what's going on. So now I'm going to show you another video because I think it's I think the video's there. Don't forget, everyone talks about. Everyone goes and talks about this, right? What Restore did, right? This is us in Runcorn and Helsby, right? AFD and English Constitution Party champion German English independence from the EU and the UK, igniting proud identity and control. British is the fiction, like Soviet citizenship, a unionist scam. They restore true national roots, fueling empowerment and belonging. Tune in Monday night. Obviously, we're outside the Bears Paw. This is right in Frodsham. We've had lots of support from the locals bibbing. I've had people stopping me saying that they've got our leaflets and they're voting for us.
The one thing I will say to everyone, and people need to understand what is actually going on, right? Do not vote for the Uni Party. If you vote for the Uni Party, you're destroying England. Again, we're about rights. So England is a brand, and that is our brand. Our manifesto is the English Constitution. The British didn't want us to register with the Electoral Commission. I had to take them to court and threaten court action to get it up there. So what are we about? All those people that stood in Stand in the Parks, all them people who stood there with yellow bulbs, all them people who stood for liberty and freedom, where have you all gone? You've gone back to your life. You've gone back to everyone just accepting what the British regime want to put upon you. We're English constitutionists. We believe in liberty and freedom, and we're standing up for you. Let me tell you something. There's one person that hasn't got a voice in this country at the moment, and that's the working class. English. And let me tell you something now. Everyone has to understand this. Lucy Letby is a product of the system. The system itself has put her in there. She stood up against the system and stood up for babies and kids, and the system has put her in prison. And you've all been lied to by the system, by the British Uni Party. Nigel Farage is a liar, and so is Keir Starmer. Every single one of them are liars. The only people who will stand up for you is another English working class person. That's what you need to elect. Do we want to take more taxes off you? No. We don't want the current tax system. It needs to be removed. There are other ways of financing a nation, and it isn't taxing working people so they've got no money to put on the table with food. That's it, people. We've come out here. There's a lot of support from us. We get a lot of people bibbing us. They love England. It's time to vote for England and self-determination of a nation and its people. Push them back. Get rid of the cabal. And the only way to do it is to vote for a Constitution Party, the English Constitution Party. And in Runcorn and Hillsby, that's Graham Moore. That's it. Thank you. And now we're going for a beer.
That back on there. Oh, right. Can you all see and hear me again now? Now, did you all just see that, by the way? Let me go back into the thing. Did you see and hear that? That was the speech that we made. I mean, we need Rupert Lowe to see that. We need to so he understands. We've been doing this a long time, and we've been suppressed by the system. There's nothing wrong with constitutionalism. That is what's going to make me feel better. Let me have a look. You all got to see it. Great speech. Again, everyone's out there seeing that, so let me take that one down again. I'll tell you what I'll do. Right, so what I'll ask people to do, it's a bit difficult because you can't actually send it. If Alistair Harriston is the person that's blocking all of the access from the English to Rupert Lowe, which I believe is what's happening, right? He's not doing anyone any favours, right? There's a lot of passion out there for England. And anyone with a business brain, and this is where the political brains don't get it, right? Anyone with a business brain, go back to the 2011 census, 32.4 million of us signed English-only national identity, right? That was the greatest marketing document ever, and then the British used it against us, right? With including the regionalisation and then flooding the highest areas of English-only national identity, and Scotland, by the way, and especially Glasgow. They flooded them areas that they knew were Protestants, right? They've done the same with Northern Ireland. They've done the same in Wales. They've done the same in England. And people need to understand that's what it's all about. DD traitors don't want to get it. And I agree. Let me just put this out there. If anyone wants, now if you was to send this, see if you can go on that, right? Just say send that to Bo from Lotus Eaters, right? I mean, we had that's just one campaign day. On other campaign days, and again, the police were sending me emails demanding to know where we was going to be. Did they do that to Rupert Lowe and the Restore team when they had these masses of people turned up? And I was applauding how many people turned up from all over the country, right? But did they say to Restore Britain they wouldn't dare, right? But we'd already brought that up in court. Roundabout Ibrox is in India. Just making sure. See if you can send this out. Sorry, let's have a quick look. See if you can send that out. Get that out. Resend it and somehow put the clip into them people and see what they say. Let me just see if there's anything up there. No. Let's see what else is up there. All right, I'm just looking for something. Right, so I'm basically going to stop for the minute, I think. Any questions from anyone? And then hopefully I'm going to get Jason from America in on Monday night. We'll see if we can have a chat with him. And then I'll work out some way of people being able to send me a message and people can come on there. Let's have a look. Guna Mum, what's that say? You're so right, DD. We have to get you somehow with Robert. I'll read all the reports and barristers don't know half the powerful laws we have had for years. I'll worry about this British barristers rewriting laws. No, so do I. So do I. I've got no idea about our constitution, where it come from. Let me just make sure. Let me have a quick look. That's these days had enough. It's embarrassing. We get a water pistol and lovely cuddly lions. What's this one here? See, I like both. So someone's just sent me a message there. Let me put that on the show. User SCJ11, right. Scotty J. I messaged Bo from Lotus Eaters asking them to get you on. He really likes you. Let me tell you something. Bo come on this show on Rumble and Reform kicked him out of the party because we was having a discussion about immigration, right? And the thing is, what I call the you can call them extreme or not, ethno nationalists, right? They don't like me because what I say is just implement a constitution and most of your problems, 98% of your problems would disappear overnight, right? But again, these people don't like it, and then you get blacks and brown people and half-caste people and all sorts of different people all saying, what about me? And I kept saying, they've moved the Overton window, but I think someone coined the phrase sensible nationalism. That's what constitutionalism is. You're using the power of your ancient laws and customs to protect. That's what our ancestors put in place. Let's have a quick look and see where I am now. Coming up to 10 past. Right, people, I'm going to say good night. God bless. Well, send messages to Bo and say, Bo, will you come on? Or get him on your show and have a chat, and then see if we can show people that, right? And they reckon we got 50 votes, and I got 50 votes in Tooting. All high profile selection processes for the ruling classes, right? The whole election system, the only way you're going to beat is if you do one of two things, and possibly both. One is overwhelm the system, and the other thing is people don't realise if there's a riot over an election, they void the election. So people turning around saying there's nothing we can do. In law, if there's a riot, right, and it's in reference to an election, you can get the whole election overturned. Nigel Farage. Dotty at it. I have asked Bo and Mr. H to get you on. Not having any of it. Dotty at it. They probably. So again, I think they're just. I don't know what it is, but Bo's all right. I'm not 100%. I mean, Carl Benjamin. Anyone who needs a bit of paper to prove they're clever and they can think. I'm not into that. That's just illogical to me. To elevate my charges, you have idea what happened. Huh? Tyrants out. Law is simple. It's the legal system that's shite. No, I agree. And crooks. They're all crooks. Right, that's it. Good night. God bless. I'm off. It's Friday night. Have fun. And I will see you Monday evening. Hopefully I'm going to be out there doing what I've got to do. So there you go. I'll see you all later. Oh, and don't forget what I believe in. The Constitution is the solution.